bank. Window down, yelling out money, anything. Ayy, ooh, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when I'm get to the bag. Ayy, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast. Ayy, ayy, let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss. Ayy.
Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by the NMFTA. Let me ask you a question. Do you ship LTL freight? Then listen up, because the NMFC changes went live on July 19th, and they're the biggest updates in the history of freight classification. Now more than ever, accuracy matters. That's why carriers, shippers, and brokers alike are turning to Class IT Plus, the NMFTA's new digital platform for real-time NMFC data. Stop guessing, start classifying smarter, and quote freight with confidence. It's time to get your ship together because the NMFC changes are already here. Learn more at nmfcchanges.com and get started with Class IT Plus at classitplus.com. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. This is your first time tuning in. Welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I got a couple of very special guests for you guys here today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation because yes, we execute the day-to-day freight moves, but they make sure all the fleets are up and running. They make sure that component of the industry is working. And I'm really excited to talk to them. They're just surpassed a very big milestone in business, and we're going to break all of that down. But before we get into that, you guys, we got to jump into This Week in Freight, powered by my friends over at DAT. Again, this is 100% viewer submitted. So if you want your lane broken down on the show, I need you to email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com. We need pickup city, delivery city, and trailer type, and we'll break it down here live on the show. So today's lane is Phoenix, Arizona to Dallas, Texas for a reefer. Now, first things first that I always look at when we're assessing lanes is miles. Why is that? Transit time matters on this, days of the week that this ship matters for this stuff, and especially when you're at that 1,000-mile mark. Thursday to Monday, if this has to move, it's going to be exponentially more expensive than if it picks Monday through Wednesday, because again, drivers don't want to hold this stuff over the weekend unless they live in Texas or en route to Dallas. It might not be a big deal, but from what I've seen over the course of my career, it's one of those things that those weekend runs, you're going to see a price increase on that, especially with a reefer, because it costs more to operate that. You got to run that thing 24/7 out there to obviously keep the product cool. But most importantly, you guys, I want you to look at the lane performance here, okay? And what do I mean by that? Like I said, I'd never tell you guys what to quote, but I want you to understand how a lane actually performs on a 12-month basis here. And obviously, there was that spike that happened when fuel jumped up, but this lane's actually been trending down. And this is a power lane, right? What do I mean by that? It's major city to major city. There's a ton of capacity on this one. And this lane is trending down. It's actually dropped like $500 over the last 30 days. And if you follow this trend line right here from 2025, same situation happened. The rate dropped and it bottomed out around August, and then it starts to pick back up. And like we were discussing on yesterday's show, you guys, you get that summer lull. And what do I mean by that? Post 4th of July, pre-Labor Day, there's just not a lot going on out there. Over the entirety of my career, I've experienced this. I can't tell you the reason why that happens. I've just always seen it in this lane, backs it up out there. And then it starts to increase as you go up throughout the end of the year. And what's important, right? Like all the talk this year is how much higher rates are and everything else. And again, we can't control the prices out there, but you can study how lanes perform. And this is the absolute like prototypical freight lane. And why we do this the way that we do this is I want you to pay attention to the trend, because now you're going to be able to adjust your pricing accordingly to your customer. And you're going to be able to plan with them on when peak season is, when's the slow time. And you're going to be able to actually execute at a higher level than most people who are in that reactionary mindset on run and gun and do it. And again, I'm not here to tell you guys how to run your operation, but I'm just letting you know, like, this lane as of this time is performing the exact same way as it was in 2025, albeit a higher price point. So this is what we mean when we say you got to pay attention to the rolling 12-month. Most lanes perform the exact same way. The trend lines look almost identical outside of the price point. All right. So pay attention to that as you guys are going through these summer months. You might start seeing a little bit of a lull. I mean, we're in the dog days of summer here. It's going to start creeping up as we get a little bit closer to Labor Day, and then it'll level off after Labor Day. And then for peak holiday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, it's going to skyrocket again. And the data here aligns with that. So pay attention to it as you're breaking things down for your customers and navigating through these summer months. But that is This Week in Freight, powered by my friends at DAT, you guys, Phoenix, Arizona to Dallas, Texas for a reefer. Now, let's jump into the episode. Like I was saying, you guys, they've been on the show in the past. They're very good friends of the show. I love what they do for the industry. And frankly, they're not involved in the day-to-day freight transactions that we talk about, but they are heavily involved in the transportation industry. So I want to welcome my friends, Kevin and Kyle Coltrain, back on the show today. Fellas, thank you guys so much for taking the time to join me here.
What's up, Chris? Fired up to be on again, man.
Now, I'm looking forward to this. And especially, first things first, congratulations, you guys. Making it 1 year in business is such a feat that most people can't even comprehend, right? Like, the data across every industry doesn't lie. There's such a high failure rate out there in business. And that's what I think stops most people from even taking that leap. So, and this is probably going to be kind of hard, but if you guys could go back over this last year, what's been the greatest realization when you're in the actual building a business seat that you guys didn't think about, like when you guys were planning on starting everything?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an exciting year. We're over 100 employees now, 70 of which are technicians across 15 states, which, Kevin and I were talking this morning, just how wild it has been, considering a year ago we had 0 trucks on the ground. For us, we're just in a very, very fortunate position. I'd say that we have a phenomenal team, and they're very entrepreneurial minded. And I think there's several members of our team that, have either run their own business in the past or could run their own business. And, we thought, versus all of us being out there competing against each other, let's bring the best of the best in the industry together that are, pissed off and hungry for success, but share the same values and standards, and let's go defend the road together. And I think that's what's been kind of the big catalyst of our growth. You look at our major markets, Florida, Louisiana, Virginia, you've got incredible general managers there that are truly, business owners of that territory within Coltrain Onsite. So, hats off to them and their success and their growth. And that's what's, made the company ultimately successful, and celebrating 1 year.
No, I love that. And so, Kevin, when you look back over this time, your family's been in this space for a long time. What were some of those things that you're now looking at the industry different than now that you're, leading the company, as opposed to when you were, maybe learning from the family as you were kind of working your way up the ladder?
Yeah, I mean, the industry has evolved quite a bit in terms of this, the landscape and the mobile maintenance and repair atmosphere. And so, when Kyle and I first started the business, there really wasn't a huge offering for mobile repairs and maintenance. You had, a few companies out there doing it. And primarily what they're doing was roadside repairs, emergency breakdowns, and maybe getting into some preventative maintenance repairs. So looking at oil changes, DOT inspections. That industry and landscape has changed quite a bit to being able to do a lot more full service, work on site. So not just doing your preventive maintenance, your, roadside events, but also taking care of, a lot of, higher end repairs. So alternator starters, working on, engine diagnostics, and, the business landscape in terms of how these companies have grown up has changed quite a bit as well. There's a lot less, family owned and operated companies in the space. And like you had mentioned, Kyle and I grew up in a family owned and operated business in the fleet services industry. And a lot of those have become, a lot of private equity backed or larger corporations. And, Kyle's eyes focus today is to continue to stay a family owned and operated company.
Yeah, that's, same with us, right? Like I'm my business partner and my brokerage is my cousin. We're first cousins, and I want to see a resurgence of that. This is kind of off topic, but kind of not off topic. It's like I want to see that resurgence of, because like almost every vertical out there is small business, right? But it's like they eventually get swallowed up. Or if you talk to some people, they're like, their goal is to be bought by private equity, or or to get investment and stuff like that. And, maybe I'm just naive, but I'm like, man, I want to own 100% of me. Like what drives me more days than not is how big can I go just on our shoulders, right? Like I could be wrong with that, but I don't know, maybe it's just like that arrogance of always been like, proving somebody wrong. I always been told like, hey, you're not good. Like you're not smart enough. You're not good enough to do it. I want to go out there and build it up. But like most importantly, I want to bring that family element back into business, because I feel like that personal touch has gone away. And, I'm going through a couple of vendors right now for a home repair project. And it's like, dude, you can tell the difference between companies out there of the ones that are like larger, and not saying that they don't appreciate their customers, but like the ones that are hungry, they're responsive, they're checking up on things. Hey, did everything make sense with this? Are you good with this? And they're like so much more detail oriented. Have you guys seen that in your guys' side of the industry where it's like, that's almost like gone away?
No, I think the family piece that you mentioned is very important. For Kevin and I, it's never been, we want to own 100% of this thing because we want to be the owners and the guys. I think the biggest thing for us, and there's a Nick Saban quote, it's, mediocre people don't like high achievers, and high achievers don't like mediocre people. And he was saying that when talking about, an organization to have good team chemistry and to be successful, everybody on the team, really needs to adhere and buy into the same values and the same standards of work. And I think what we found in our past life, whether that was corporate consolidation or whatever the case may be, the more people you get involved, particularly, on a cap table, I think the different agendas that exist where, one owner of that business or member of that team wants to get as big as possible, as fast as possible. And another person on that team wants to juice as much margin as they can out of every repair order. And then you've got the people doing the work that just want to do a heck of a job for their customer. And I think that misalignment, is what leads to poor team chemistry, a poor customer experience, like you were alluding to when talking to vendors. And that's what Kevin and I wanted when starting Coltrain Onsite, was just a really, really good group of people aligned with the same values and the same high standards. So yeah, we see it in our industry because there is a lot of corporate roll-up happening, if you will. And I think you get different agendas going out there where, on our team, our core focus is defending the road, doing a high quality job for our customers at a fair price. And that's what everyone's focused on here.
Do you think that has led people away from your industry? And I say that from the stance of like, you hear about a technician shortage out there. Do you think that it's maybe like people just like, there's nobody out there at scale, right? I'm not saying you guys in particular or anything like that, but are like teaching that having pride in your work, because that's what I'm hearing you're describing right there is you guys want to make sure that like people feel how prideful you are about the work and service you guys are providing out there. And do you think that that's maybe gotten away, and that's what's maybe driven people away from the trades entirely is it's just become a line item on some big corporations, balance sheet, as opposed to those old school, like I look at like carpenters growing up and how like there were master carpenters and they only built one or maybe two homes in a year because of all of the intricacies that they brought to that build. And then now it's just like overly commercialized where they build 30 homes at a time and they all look identical.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. With the trades, Obviously the world's changed a lot. And I think if you look back in history, you had individuals that started with that company as an apprentice and worked their way up to, a master mechanic or whatever the case may be, into management, into running the company. And now you have a culture, of a lot of job hopping, I would say, within our industry and within the trades, where you're just going to the next job for another $1 an hour because there's no loyalty to the company. And in fairness to the employee, there's no loyalty to the employee because they're going to, chase that buck as much as possible. So we're definitely, I don't think it's deterring people from the industry as much as it is, that loyalty. We're going to give it to you and we expect it in return. And fortunately, we've got a turnover rate of, low single digits, have really hardly lost anybody. And that's our goal, is to give them a home, for the next 30, 40, 50 plus years.
Yeah. And I'll just add to that too. I mean, I think we've done a really, our focus as well is, obviously Kyle and I are the owners of the business, but we want to listen to our team and get feedback. And these technicians, I think one of the things that they have challenged with and other companies is they're the ones doing the job and changes happen and they're not involved in those. And really, Kyle's and I's focus day in and day out is to give them empowerment to be involved in those changes or in those decisions. And so they feel like they are running their own business in that service truck. And so, they're making decisions with us and having a voice in kind of what direction we take this company on a daily basis.
No, good point. Yeah. One thing I'll add to that, Chris, because I'm glad Kevin brought that up. We have seen other companies in our space that really, really disencourage a close relationship between the technician and their customer, meaning they don't want the customer to be communicating with that technician directly. They're afraid of that intimacy, if you will, because if that technician leaves, well, then the customer is going to leave and follow the technician. So we've seen a lot of players try to break that relationship up and put a wall in place. We're the exact opposite. Like, I want my technicians and customers to be as close as possible. You've got a guy, you could call them. We believe that leads to a great customer experience where there's that trust and rapport there. And I know if that technician leaves, that customer is probably going to follow him. And we welcome that. We're not afraid of that. It's more, okay, we need to take best in class care of these technicians so they stay and have that customer, not looking at it as we need to break up this relationship. That way, if we lose the tech, we don't lose the business. So to Kevin's point on, the entrepreneurship and the autonomy and listening to that feedback, it's been, different, but we think it's great.
I mean, creating customer loyalty, I think, building up my companies and it like getting business is one thing, growing with the customer and building that loyalty is a completely different ball game, right? Like, where it's like when you're in the sales process, at least on the freight side, like very rarely am I going to say anything to any of my prospects over the phone or in person that they haven't been told 100 times before and probably burnt by in the past, right? Where it is that individual of like doing the right thing. And that's our number one core value in our company is do the right thing. It's going to cost us money at times, but if it's the right thing to do, we have to do that because I know other people aren't going to, I know other people aren't going to, if we misquote something, gonna take the loss. They're going to go out there and try and get more money or anything like that. And that just goes against everything that I do. Cause like, I want that customer experience to be so top notch with my organization where they're not receiving that level of service from anybody else out there. And it's like, I also have the mentality of it's like, if I've done 1,000 shipments for you, I'm not entitled to the 1,001st. Like, I have to earn that business every single transaction. And it sounds like, again, change around the terminology. That's the mindset and the culture you guys are building at Coltrain is that customer loyalty.
Yeah, I mean, you're only as good as your last repair, and having elite communication and consistency and quality in the invoice being accurate is imperative. We do not have long-term contracts with our clients. It is on a sales and service basis. So we know, we might have serviced that customer for the last 2 years. We do a bad job yesterday, they could find a new vendor today. And we keep kind of that back against the wall mentality that, every day we need to step up and deliver high quality service. And if you look at our business, there is no room for error. We can't go and do a poor job today because then that vehicle is in an unsafe position and then it's driving next to, a family on a road trip and an incident happens. There's no room, to mess up and screw up a repair in our business, which is why safety is so important and where that defend the road mindset really came from.
Yeah, what I was gonna say, what you mentioned there about communication and accurate billing, it's the top two things of importance that I've identified on the freight side of things as well that every customer looks for. Like if you can't communicate and if you can't bill them properly, like they won't work with you. And it's just it's just interesting that you brought that up. And it's like, again, different business model, exact same like top things of importance to your customers that you have to deliver on a time by time basis, right? Because it's like I say this often, even in freight, right? Like we might have contracts with somebody, but they're not worth the weight they're of the paper they're printed on. Because like if you don't deliver on your end, they'll cancel the contract and you're done, right? So it's like even though you have this awarded business, you cannot have the mindset outside of I have to earn this every single time. I got to make sure my communication's up to bar. I got to make sure my invoice and I'm billing them properly, because if you can't do those two things, there's 25,000 other freight brokers out there that will do that potentially.
Absolutely. No, a lot of parallels. And that it almost feels like any business. Like if you're not communicating appropriately or if you're overbilling in almost anything, that's going to be a pretty big sticking point. So, we're fortunate we've got some good tools coming out to our field team and some things that we're working on that are going to even further improve, that experience for our customers and our team members.
I was going to say, so it's like, how do you innovate, right? Like what is, because you guys were mentioning the way things were, like, how do you take this and what have you guys learned out there over this past year from like an innovation with technology and things and tools? How do you innovate that and release a product out there to your guys' industry?
Yeah, I mean, a few different things. I think you're always looking on ways to get better. And, an example of that is later this year, we're rolling out the version 2 of our service truck. And our service truck we thought was the best in the industry, but we went to our technicians. We welcomed open feedback directly from the field, found some things that we could tweak and get better. So we want to, continuously improve in everything that we do. You mentioned the technology piece, and, we've identified a pretty drastic gap, and I think others have as well in our industry, mobile maintenance and repair, in the quality assurance piece of it, and giving a customer confidence in every repair and giving the technicians the tools, to be consistent, whether that technician is in Miami or Richmond, Virginia or Cincinnati, Ohio. If we're servicing a national fleet, we expect that to be done the exact same way. Our customers expect it to be done the exact same way. And there's really not a lot of tools out there that exist to help our team deliver that. So we are launching a new proprietary field service application as we speak called Shield. And that is what our technicians will utilize for essentially the entire scope of their job, whether that's inventory management, digital preventative maintenance inspections, submitting the repair orders, and it gives them tools, visuals, things that they need to make sure they're doing the job the right way. But then furthermore, on the back end, the customer is able to get a real-time report and know what is getting done with his unit, and date and time stamping everything, pictures, so they really have assurance in the quality and confidence in the repairs that are being done to their fleet. So really fired up to kind of push the envelope forward with that.
No, I love that. Now, I as somebody who's, I've built a tech company in the past, why build versus buy something out there? Was there just nothing on the shelf that you guys, look for? Or was it talking to your technicians and being involved in this industry at the depth that you guys are? You're like, we got to build this because it doesn't exist. And we want this to be a competitive advantage for us out there.
Yeah, there are really, really good tools out there, but I think as far as checking every box that we needed, and like you mentioned, getting feedback directly from our technicians, nothing would have been best in class and to the standard that we have for our team. I will say, I'm going to give a shout out here to Mark Curtis, who leads our IT team. He is phenomenal. And as we evaluated the tools that existed out there, he was extremely confident, in the ability for us to build these tools internally, and that being a higher value product for our team member and our customers in the long run. So Kevin and I are not IT guys. We really lean on, like I said, with everything, we lean on the great team that we have, and Mark steered us down that path. And, thankfully he did.
And I'll just add quickly on that too. I mean, Kyle talked about the tools and the visibility for the customers and also the technician. The tools that are out there, seem to be either really great for the customer or really easy for the technician. And we want to have a balance of those two, where that customer gets the visibility, but for our technicians, it's easier for them to learn. It's easier for them to go through. And that becomes a sticking point for a lot of technicians, especially ones that may not be as tech savvy on a phone. And so the device, the Shield device that we've created, has mixed those two really well, where customers get great visibility, great processing, great quality assurance. But the technicians can go through that extremely easily and quickly, and making sure they're doing their job on that phone, but able to take care of a truck at the same time and not have to bounce between the two.
I was going to say, so I mean, to me, it seems like every unit out there or every piece of equipment out there has data, and you need to accurately tracking that. How do you guys take this, and like, how does this help fleets make a better decision on, making repairs, right? Is it like they're able to get ahead of it? Is it from like a budgetary perspective where it's like, hey, our fleets, treads on their tires are at certain percentage, let's order them now? Like, kind of walk me through how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, with Shield, I'll take a preventative maintenance inspection as an example. They're going to have real-time visibility to every inspection point that's hit. And even if a unit does not necessarily fail via DOT specs, we're going to mark that as a recommendation. So you use tires as an example. Hey, these are wearing thin. You're still in compliance this past DOT, but we really recommend replacing these before your next inspection. And that's going to eliminate an on-road failure, a blown tire. Now you've got a breakdown situation, and that's going to cost that fleet money. But furthermore, a big piece of the mobile maintenance and repair space is trust. And if a mobile technician is out on the lot and does a PM inspection, and let's say it's all on paper and pencil, and then he's going to submit an estimate to that customer for $10,000 worth of repairs, that fleet manager might be 10, 15 states away, and he doesn't know or this technician from anybody. Does he trust this company? Should I go get another quote from somebody? Like, I don't know what's going on. Where with us, they're going to have picture and video documentation. They're going to see, okay, yeah, this does need to be repaired. Let's go ahead and get that fixed. We're confident in the estimate. We're approving it. We're moving forward. So, we're all about maximizing fleet uptime, minimizing total cost of ownership. We think that these tools will give our customers, more success in doing that.
I was going to say, I mean, how's your technician adoption? Like, what are we looking like? Is this something that they came to you guys about as well, where they're like, hey, we got to think of a more efficient way to start tracking a lot of these things? And, kind of like as a consumer, right? Like, obviously I don't own trucks yet, but it's like, as a consumer, like looking at something like, I love that layout that you guys are describing there. And especially if, your guys as technicians out there, it's seemingly going to make their job easier, right? Where less paperwork, less time, they're going to be able to upload stuff a lot faster. Is that, I'm assuming they're going to be taking this with open arms.
Yeah, Kevin, go ahead.
Certainly. Yeah, I mean, definitely. And going back kind of the earlier point, we're getting their feedback daily and making revisions and updates and changes as we go along. We're not putting a product out there that will never be changed at all. We're listening back to our technicians saying, hey, how can we make this better and easier for you to utilize? And same thing for our customers. We've been working on the Shield product for a while now, and throughout the first version to where we're at today has changed, based on the feedback from our technicians and based on feedback from customers to, give more visibility, to give a better product to our customers, and also to make our technicians' lives easier and making sure, all their focus and energy is spent working on a truck and not, trying to log something on paper or, on a cumbersome device that is not efficient for them.
I was going to say that, looking at it also from like a quality control perspective as well, right? Like you had brought up like a fleet manager who might be 15 states away that has a national fleet presence out there. Does this allow you guys to almost have that checks and balance system in place where it's like, hey, a truck getting serviced in Virginia and their truck getting serviced down in Florida gets the exact same level of service at every time, and now they're going to be able to pull up that with the Shield technology and just have that baseline of quality across the board?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That consistency in quality and price, being a national mobile maintenance provider, is something that we definitely have a strong emphasis on, and this technology gives us the ability to do that. Furthermore, and you mentioned quality control, something we've seen in the industry, is a term, maybe you've heard of it, called pencil whipping, where a technician goes out to do an hour and a half inspection or an hour inspection on a trailer, checks every box, gets done with it in 10 minutes, moves on to the next one. And I don't think it's as much the technician's fault as it is the pressure that their management's putting on them. But regardless, it is happening. And with Shield, every individual inspection point is date and time stamped. So we know this inspection point should take a really good technician 22 minutes to get done. He got done with this inspection point in 30 seconds. That's going to flag to our team internally and that technician's manager immediately. So we're able to go and identify, hey, what happened here? You obviously missed a step. We need to coach through this. We need to go get hands on that vehicle before it gets on the road. So the quality assurance on our end, ensuring that our techs are delivering high quality service, that visibility is, world class. I would say it is industry leading and really, really revolutionary.
No, I love that, right? Like if I'm just looking back at it, because again, it's like as companies grow, I mean, you guys have 100 people on your team now, right? And you said 70 of them are technicians. And, that's one of those things that as you're growing and scaling a company where, and we have this as well, like we're hiring people, we have new people on our team. We want to make sure our customers don't notice the difference of service they're receiving, regardless of the person who's updating them or, taking care of them during that transaction. Because as any business grows and scales, they're not going to just hear from you, but that expectation of quality never can leave. Because like you had just said, at the beginning, like communication, the number one thing that's out there. And now they know, and you guys have that, man. I love this. I think this is great, right? And I love learning about new technologies and innovations out there, right? Because like when you guys started this, you probably never thought anything about like, oh, hey, we're going to create this new technology that's going to come out there. You might have, right? But it's like these things just kind of come about. So it's like, I love hearing about that innovation that you guys are going to be able to continue to separate yourself from everybody.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. When we hired Mark, he said pardon my French, he said, I want to build really cool shit that customers love and technicians love. And Kevin and I kind of said, that's awesome. Go do what you got to do. And, here we are with some really, really cool stuff. So excited to share it with the world here in the coming weeks.
No, I love it. You guys, cheers. Congratulations on 1 year, on to 100 years. We'll put it
yes,
like that.
Sir.
You guys are in this to build this up for the long haul. Kyle, Kevin, thank you guys so much for your time today. How does anybody reach out to you guys to find out more about what you guys got going on at Coltrain?
Yeah, absolutely. Reach us on our website, coltrainonsite.com. We've got a phone number on there, a contact us form, email address. You could always find Kevin or myself directly on LinkedIn, but coltrainonsite.com would be your best bet.
Perfect. I appreciate it. If you guys can't find them out there, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in contact with them. But that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank that show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out.